auxiliary connections. Friday afternoon, the day before Saturday, we had a great session this morning with the one-stop shop in Allen. We're looking forward to another great session with the golf course and the bookstore. Chatting your comments as we go, chatting your questions, and we'll share those. If you're joining us from YouTube, do the same, and we'll transfer them over to the Zoom. So without much ado, I want to go ahead and welcome Matt and his team to tell us about their fall readiness. It's all yours, Matt.
Thanks, Randolph. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. We are definitely have had plans in preparation for quite a while in terms of our reopening, and our reopening is a little different, I think, than everybody else's, because we could open up right now our entire operation to the public, and we would have a customer base that would, a viable customer base that would keep us busy and keep the revenue flowing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we would do in that case, and it's all hypothetical because we really don't have a date yet for our reopening to the public, but we're thinking about it a lot and hoping that it's soon, so we can get back to business and get some people out on the course and generate some revenue. The golf course itself, all of our 11 full-time staff have been on site the entire closure period, I'll call it, since March, maintaining the golf course. So that's what we've been doing during that time period, and we continue to do that. But we're going to start working on these preparations. So Randolph, if you could put up the PowerPoint for me. Perfect, and you can go on to the next. Okay, so the golf industry has been very fortunate in that throughout most of the country, a majority of the golf courses have been allowed to stay open throughout, even the shelter at home orders that we went through back in the end of March and in April. Basically because we're an outdoor sport, we're a good source of recreation, and we're outside, so social distancing is much easier for us than it is for a retail store or a dining facility or restaurant, anything, coffee house, something like that. So golf courses have been allowed by many states to stay open through the entire time. In Georgia, it definitely in the case. Governor Kemp has allowed golf courses to stay open and put out some guidelines for us to follow. And this first screen that's up is just to show you the allied golf associations in the United States that have worked to basically come up with some best practices for golf courses as they stayed open through the shelter at home orders, or like us, as we're getting ready to reopen. So those organizations, the PGA Tour is one, the PGA of America, which I'm a member of, is a major part of it. Golf Course Owners Association, Golf Course Superintendents, who are Superintendent Scott Griffith is a member of, and then the LPGA, and then the United States Golf Association, and then Club Management Association of America. Those are the 7, I believe, organizations that put this information out, and they sent these to the governors and to any other political players that they needed to try and maintain the idea that golf courses were a safe place to recreate during the pandemic. So if you'd move forward, Randolph. Thank you, sir. So they followed the very similar approach to the federal government's 3-phased opening process. The phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, we're going to basically, how it applies to UGA, we're going to take those 3 phases in the guidelines and apply them to our facility as we think is best done. We won't follow them to a T, and but we will be very conservative in our approach. And when I say we don't follow them to a T, a lot of the things that they recommend in phase 1 may not happen with us until we get to phase 2. And likewise, what they have happening in phase 2 won't happen with us until we get to phase 3. But it's a gradual progression, starting with phase 1, where it's a very controlled environment. Social distancing, hygiene is, the utmost importance and takes precedence over everything. We reduce the number of tee times. We reduce carts to 1 person per cart only, unless they're from the same household. Limit the number of customers at the range. Phase 2, it opens up a little bit. We go back to a regular tee time interval. Well, at least in this plan they do. Social distancing is still very, very important, as is hygiene, but it's a little relaxed. Parts of the clubhouse could open back up, the cafe, the golf shop, things like that. And then phase 3 is really where we kind of get back to whatever our new normal is, where we start thinking about hosting events again, where we, get back to the business of golf instruction, leagues, clinics, things like that. So Randolph, if you'll move forward to the next slide. So that main slide, we'll go back to that in between each phase, but phase 1 for us, and again, this is hypothetical, this could change in multiple ways depending upon what we're trying to accomplish, what we're allowed to accomplish. But these are kind of the ideas that we're putting forth as the best way for our facility to reopen. So in phase 1, you can see the clubhouse, the cafe, golf shop, and the golf course proper all remain closed. The only thing that would open back up would be the driving range. We would do that on a limited basis. Right now, we can support probably close to 60 to 70 customers at a time. So you can see our 28 customer maximum capacity is less than half. We'll spread everybody out significantly to avoid person-to-person contact within 6 feet. We're going to work on disinfecting frequently the restrooms, our credit card terminal, our range baskets, our doors, our restroom facilities. And then we'll kind of try and control the flow of traffic through the driving range building and turn it into a one-way in and then a one-way exit using a gate that's actually outside of the building to try and keep people from crossing each other in close quarters. The practice greens would be open, but they limited to only 3 customers at a time to try and create that space that we need to create to keep everybody safe. The range is a very busy operation, but it's sort of one-dimensional in respect to the way we can have people come in and come out. It's much different when we get to the golf course, which Randolph, you can go ahead and go to the next slide, and you can even go on past that one to our phase 2. So in phase 2, we would keep the driving range operating as it was in phase 1, but then we would reopen this clubhouse, the Champions Cafe, the golf shop, and the golf course itself. The golf course operation is much more complex than the driving range. There's going to be a lot of things that we'll do in the clubhouse to ensure that people are safe. Like we did at the range, we will set up a one-way traffic flow through the clubhouse to where people who are coming in to pay enter one door, come in, pay, and then they exit another door on the other side of the clubhouse. So we'll be keeping people spaced in that payment flow, at least 6 feet apart. We'll have our cashier at least 10 feet away from the credit card terminal that the customer uses. We'll have a new position that we're going to create, for the foreseeable future, and it's going to be a disinfector, I call it. So we'll have people at the driving range, people at the clubhouse, that their sole job is to be disinfecting the premises throughout the day. We'll be using, the misters inside. We'll be cleaning our carts with disinfectant. Really anything that the customer touches, we want it to be clean and disinfected. So any pens that are used, we'll have a clean pen container, a used pen container. When the customer uses it to sign something, it goes in the used container. Our disinfecting staff member will come and collect those and disinfect them. Tea time intervals, we'll spread those out. Normally they're 9 minutes apart. We're going to spread those out to 15 minutes apart to create more separation inside and outside on the golf course and on the practice green area. Some people would like to come out much earlier and practice a while, and we'll get a pretty good congregation of people on the practice putting green before they play. We're going to try and discourage that in phase 2 as much as we can. So we're going to specify times when we want people to come and check in 15 minutes before their tee time. They'll go to the practice green, and then once their tee time comes, they're off. And so we'll try and create a flow that we don't have people bunching up on top of one another throughout the day. At this point in time, the golf shop will probably limit it to 1 or 2 customers at a time. We may have to put a shield up to protect the cashier and the customer that's paying at the counter. But again, we'll be focusing in on keeping everything clean, keeping people from gathering and contacting one another in close proximity. Our staff will be wearing masks indoors. We won't outdoors, but again, we will be maintaining that social distancing guideline with our staff outside of the buildings. Okay. All right, Randolph, you can go on to also on phase 2, also the outdoor areas that we normally have staged with chairs and tables that we use for our events and outings. Those will not be in place until phase 3. We're going to try and discourage anybody from gathering in our space, to protect everybody involved. On the golf course, we'll have all of our water stations will be removed, our bunker rakes will be removed. We'll put something in the cups to keep the golf balls from going down into the cup, to keep people from having to reach in and touch the flagstick. There's a lot of really good ways to eliminate touch points at the golf facility. And these are all things that are in the main plan that the Allied Golf Associations pushed out back in, they started in April, and the one that we're viewing today is their final version in May. So, okay, Randolph. All right. Now, phase 3 is when, we start to get back to somewhat normal. Prior to phase 3, we were going to be credit card only. Phase 3, we intend, and again, these are all hypotheticals, these could change at any moment. We intend to get back to cash transactions. We intend to resume some sort of an event hosting capability. Don't know what that's going to look like. I think it's going to has the potential to be much different than what we've done previously in the past, where we have large gatherings of people. I really don't foresee the large gatherings being encouraged for quite some time. Hopefully I'm wrong on that, but I just get the sense that that's not going to be a good thing to do until we have this pandemic under control and we have ways to mitigate its damage to the population. Indoor sanitation practices, those will continue. We might reduce the number of times we sanitize, but we will, any of the common touch points like pens, credit card terminals, things like that, we will keep a close eye on those. We'll provide hand sanitizers to the customers throughout all 3 phases to where when they come up to a credit card terminal, they can sanitize their hands before touching it, and then afterwards as well. Staff members will still be provided with the PPE. Face masks will, that may become a personal choice at that point in time. Hopefully we'll be able to get away from some of that, but we will definitely have it on hand. We'll try and resume our water stations on the golf course. The driving range will return to a more normal setup to where we can get more people in there at one time. We do host the PE classes throughout, well, not this summer because everything's online, but we do host throughout the academic year, up to, usually it's between 26 and 30 students per class, and we usually do about 8 or 9 a day of those. So that's a lot of people moving through our driving range, and that'll be something we'll have to discuss with the kinesiology department on what they're going to be expecting from us in terms of the facility setup to keep their students safe according to their guidelines. So, there's a lot to the PE classes that we'll have to pay attention to. Tee times will go back to 9 minutes apart, which will be good because we will be at maximum revenue potential at that point in time, which is a good thing. We will still sanitize the carts. We'll probably do that overnight, spray them right before we leave at night, and then they'll be dry by the morning and sanitized and ready to be put out. Range baskets, the same thing. We do have a few things that we hope to be able to get in place by phase 3 that'll help us even more in all of this social distancing and sanitizing and just, hygiene specifics. Ball dispensing machine at the range that we hope to be self-op by the customer, be payment by credit card. We hope to do that and remove the cashier. That's one interaction between people that we can eliminate, save some labor costs as well. But we feel like that'll be a better setup. And then we're trying to get to where we can have online payment processing for our tee times. We really want to get to the point where we can be an online payment only facility if necessary. So if perhaps this situation, develops again over the winter, and we have this ability to have online payment only, we could close the entire clubhouse off, still get people on the golf course in a safe manner, and still generate revenue. We're hopeful that we can get that put in place before phase 3 begins, or shortly thereafter. Our events will begin happening again. I think I mentioned that. And then the group instruction clinics that we host, the leagues that we have, we're very hopeful that those will be authorized for operation. That's what we have in our initial plan. Certainly could change, based on the conditions that we have with the virus, and also with our instruction for the fall. Goodness knows, hopefully it's in person, but there's always that chance that we could be online again. Nobody hopes for it, but it's possible. So we're going to be very flexible. We're going to try and react quickly to any conditions that arise and keep everybody safe. So I don't know if there's any questions, Randolph, or I don't know how we're doing on time. I don't want to go over my time.
We are good on time. Let me see, Julie, are there any questions in the chat box, either on Zoom or YouTube?
We did have a question come in from Tamala. She asked, do you know if the golfing industry saw an uptick in customers due to other activities being closed during the shelter-in-place orders?
So yes, it's almost been like a rebirth for the golf industry. It has, and we're blessed in this regard. Through the pandemic, the golf industry has thrived. I've talked to some of the local operators that are open, and they expressed that it's close to Masters Week atmosphere, which is, you know, our biggest, you know, most everybody's biggest week of the year for golfers. It's that type of atmosphere every day, all day. They're filling every tee time. They are, I mean, they're really financially, they're doing extremely well, and they're keeping people safe. And I think that's a really important point that you know, Governor Kemp has made. He wants things to open, but he wants people to be safe. And in the golf industry, we've been able to do that, demonstrate that. I've had great success through this whole pandemic situation. So yes, there's been a huge uptick in terms of people playing golf.
You got a kudos for your virtual tour of the golf course. People love that.
Good, yeah, that was Allison Brennan and her marketing department put that together.
Jean asked a question about checking in, if we'll be using eye scanners, if they book online or purchase online, or if a non-student or non-employee wants to use the course, how will they check in?
Check-in will be, you know, if we can get the online payment processing function in place, it will be a much more streamlined process for the golfer once they enter the golf course. If we can get that in place, they will have a receipt. They'll print a receipt at home, or they'll bring their phone in and they'll show us their phone receipt to our starter. And basically, once they do that and check in, you know, they're good to go. You know, they can go, you know, once it's their tee time, they go straight to the tee. Until we get to that point, we'll have a check-in facility inside the clubhouse that we're gonna keep everybody spaced apart. We're gonna keep it as safe as we possibly can for everyone. It'll be a normal check-in. You'll have a cashier, but the cashier will be much further away from the credit card terminal that the customer will use. It'll be credit card only. You'll come in and check in. Tee times can still be made online as they are now, or by phone, calling in. So, you know, we're going to try and keep our operation as consistent as it was with the way it was before the pandemic started. So things like that, we're going to try and keep them as people expect them to be.
Great, good to hear that. Maggie had asked about the tall, antique-looking clock out on the golf course, and if you know any of the history or story of it.
Yes, so the clock was put in, it's probably put in, I can't remember, we renovated the golf course in 2006. And I can't remember if we put the clock in at that point in time, and it was there in December of 06, January of 07, or if when we hosted the Stadium Classic, we put it in as a feature for that particular tournament. But it's about, so it's right now it's about 10 to 14 years old. My predecessor, Dave Kuzart, and George Stafford, who was the Auxiliary Services Vice President at the time, put it in. It's been, I mean, it's just been a really good addition to the golf course. You'll see many golf courses when you watch a tournament on TV will have something similar. It's just, it really adds a lot to the practice area. I think it's really a nice feature.
Cool, thank you.
Fitting of the University of Georgia, we felt like.
If more, somebody asked if more people play the course solo, will the number of hole-in-ones go up?
Golfers don't cheat. It's part of the game. We don't cheat. So, yeah, it could go up, but to have a hole-in-one, it's got to be verified for it to be official. So, unless you can get a squirrel out there to verify your hole-in-one, it won't truly count.
Let's see. I think we had one more. What kind of meal service options are available at some of the other local golf courses? Has everyone adjusted their meal operations if they're serving meals at all?
Yeah, a lot of the dining spaces themselves closed down. I know out at Athens Country Club that a lot of their amenities shut down. They kept the golf course available, but the clubhouse amenities were shut down. Things like the locker room, fitness areas, dining, the lounges, those were shut down. What they did though is they offered to go. So basically, pretty similar to what our facility offers on a regular day in, day out, to go options, in those larger facilities move towards that. Some of the other clubs in the area, they might have a similar setup to us. They would close their seating areas, but would still allow people to come in and take items to go. Some folks decided to just go prepackaged items all the way. Some probably opted for drink carts and food and beverage carts on the golf course to keep people out of the clubhouse. But the main thing was keeping those gathering areas closed to keep people safe. And that's something that we'll look at. And of course, dining services, we'll look at that in our cafe operation and figure out what they would like to try and do with it until we get back to a more normal situation. They have a few options. They could do the drink cart, food and beverage cart. They could open their space back up. It's very small, so you could do one person per time or one customer at a time in that space and still operate close to what they are used to doing. We also have a starter building down by the practice green that we could put, just prepackaged items, snacks, drinks, things like that people could pick up on their way in between, 9 green and 10 tee. So we have some options there, which is good. And then hopefully, come August, we start to look a lot more normal than we are now.
Okay, I think that does it for all the questions. Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you so much, Matt. Quick question for you in terms of employee safety. I know you all have been maintaining the course. Can you speak a little bit about what you all have done regarding employee safety?
Yes, we're educating. That was the first thing we tried to do with everybody is educate them, on the things that are smart in a situation like this. The golf course is we maintain 150 acres. So for 11 of us, we can go out there and never see somebody else the rest of the day. So we're lucky in that respect. But, we sanitize, we get guys to wash their hands, use hand sanitizer. Some of the utility carts, some of the equipment that we use, we're, specifically saying, attaching a name to a specific vehicle, saying this is your vehicle, these are your tools, and everybody else, don't invade that space. So, we're outside so much that, sometimes we lose track of what's going on, but we're really trying to keep people from, we have a maintenance office building that has a nice lounge area. And if anybody's in there, we're trying to space out at least, the 6 feet apart. But a lot of times, Scott Griffith, our superintendent, he's just, he's clocking everybody in and out manually on the computer to keep people from coming in and, touching the Kava clocks one after the other. And we're trying to keep people outside as much as we possibly can and not inside. So that's our main focus. And then we're sanitizing, keeping things clean. Hand sanitizers are available. We're doing everything we can. Can we be 100% foolproof? No, we can't. And I don't think the university can. Things will happen when you bring 40,000 students back. And I think we just need to be prepared how to handle those. And that's what we're trying to do at the golf course as well. We're just, trying to do what we can and protect the facility and maintain the golf course, being safe, but we're still, we're getting out there and getting after it.
All right. Well, sounds very good, Matt. Thank you very much for your presentation. We are going to shift this afternoon a little bit. So we will move the bookstore presentation to next week. Next week, we have a lineup of presentations, but it will start with Max and John from Max from Contracts Grants, those folks, as well as John from Vending, to talk a little bit about their safety and fall preparedness, fall readiness. For now, though, again, I earlier this morning, I wanted you to, I drew your attention to the university's document. And one of the things that Matt said that I just want folks to be reminded of, it's a lot of this has to do with your own education. So it's easy to ask, what is auxiliary doing for me? But the question that Alan even talked about today is, what are you doing for yourself? And a big piece of that is educating yourself. And so I'm going to share my screen again real quickly to re-emphasize the importance of this return to campus document guidelines that the university has put up. We didn't have a chance to just scroll down. I'm going to scroll down and show you the table of contents a little bit. There's a lot of things there for you to read, for you to become aware of. A lot of the questions that folks have been asking on these sessions have been answered in this document. I'll scroll down a little quicker because it talks about COVID-19, it talks about self-monitoring, it talks about how COVID-19 spreads, it talks about some safety practices, so everything from social distancing to washing your hands, to face coverings. It talks about the different kinds of face coverings that are available, how to use them properly, how to put them on, how to take them off. And then towards the end there, it talks about vehicle uses and transportation. So for those who do get in a van with someone, you've heard a lot of these things that they're talking about already being talked about by our units. At the end of the document, there's some employee resources links and phone numbers for you to reach out to folks who can continue to answer the questions that you have. Again, make sure to check your email. It came from Arch News, came from the president's office. We're going to make sure that it's on our resource page as well. So please, please, please take a minute and look at this particular document. And just a correction, the presentation on Monday will include Jane Hamilton, the grant professional, as well as some of the other folks that work with Mark Thames. I see Morgan's comment saying that this is indeed a good resource here, the Return to Campus Guide. So if you have an opportunity, please take a look at it, digest it. We're digesting it in the back, behind the scenes, to ensure that we can operationalize it to the fullest. And for most of our units, we're going to even go steps beyond some of what's being asked here. Well, we get to give you back a whopping 26 minutes in your afternoon this afternoon. It's a great Friday. There's probably some storms going by, but if you can get out, or if you can use this time to do more with family, thank you again for a great kickoff to our fall readiness. Tortilla Man says, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we see you on Monday. Take care, y'all, and thank you very much, Matt.